Hello, everybody. Welcome to Movies by McManus, the podcast where we break down movies, comics, TV, books, whatever kind of media you're into, in the context of who created it and what effect it's trying to have on the world. I'm your host, Greg. I'm with my brother, Mike.
Hello.
And today we're going to be breaking down The Sound of Metal, directed by Darius Marder, and starring Riz Ahmed as our hearing loss protagonist, Ruben.
You kind of have a Ruben shirt on right now.
I have a Ruben-esque shirt on right now.
Is it The Sound of Metal or Sound of Metal?
The Sound of Metal.
Okay.
Not just Sound of Metal. Yeah, well, I made this shirt myself. No one, if you're just listening, you're not going to be able to see it. But this was a plain black shirt when I got it, and I put some bleach in a weird pattern, and I made this shirt myself.
When was that?
I made it in my backyard in Long Beach, not maybe 2 months ago.
Okay, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
I would have never. You could have told me, "Oh, I got this from H&M for $95." I'd have been like, "All right."
Nope, I made it myself in my backyard.
Which goes to show you like how overpriced shit is.
So, The Sound of Metal. It follows our protagonist Ruben. He is a punk metal drummer who loses his hearing, and when he loses his hearing, he kind of loses his identity. And there is a lot of that in the beginning of this film. Ruben is a former drug addict. He's a recovering drug addict, and a lot of his identity he put into his music and into his band. We see that he's dating his bandmate, Lou. He lives on the road in a van, not dissimilar to Fern, where we did Nomadland last week. And you see is kind of in his living space, pretty much every aspect of his living space is dedicated to music. He kind of has a studio inside of his van. The drums, his drum set is set up in his size van. He lives with his girlfriend, who's his bandmate. And there is kind of this, he's escaping his former self of a heroin addict by creating this new self. And his new identity is 100% music. As well, how can I have that new identity of the musician if I cannot hear?
Right.
And that's really that, and that's his main struggle, at least for the first bit of the film. Of basically, he's trying not to relapse. He's trying not to relapse because he's focused so much of his recovery on music, basically, and he doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you know, when you are recovering from something, as anyone will tell you who has experience, you're not just subtracting something from your life.
Right.
It needs to be replaced. Whatever energy, you know, if it's a dark energy that you're cutting out of your life, you have to replace it with something. You know, the idle hands are the devil's plaything, obviously, and that's true. So, I mean, I personally was like, I was texting you like this movie hit a little too close. To home for me, just because myself, however many, you know, musician friends that I have, which is throughout the years, I couldn't even count, but really fucking scary, like the idea. And then I was thinking about the singer of AC/DC who went deaf like a few years ago and can't tour. And like, you know, I just can't imagine that, man.
I mean, it kind of happened to me. Not nearly as bad.
I didn't know if we were gonna
do. Well, I mentioned it in my breakdown of just like I also have hearing loss.
Yeah, I don't even know that much about it other than a few years ago. You got, how long ago was it?
3 years ago.
Yeah,
I was officially like diagnosed.
What were you officially diagnosed with? Because obviously you're not
I don't
deaf.
know if there's like a for real medical term for it. I had something like, you know, if your ears are supposed to work at 100%, mine worked at like 75%.
Right.
You know, so I don't have it as bad as Ruben. Like, even in the beginning, when he can still hear so much, they say it's like 25, 24% on both ears. So I don't have it nearly as bad as Ruben. Also, I believe, like, me and him kind of have different types of hearing loss.
Yeah.
Because when you're...
Is that part of the reason you wanted to do this?
Part of the reason why I wanted to do this. Also, just like I like Riz Ahmed. When I first watched this, I watched this with my roommate, and that kind of muffled hearing when Ruben starts to go deaf, my roommate Gabby asked me like if that was how I heard, and the answer is no.
Right.
That's not how I hear. I didn't realize I had hearing loss until a doctor told me.
Mm-hmm. How did you even think to have that test done then? Because you've been wearing hearing aids for like every day for years.
I had really bad tinnitus.
Oh, yeah.
So my ears, when I don't have my hearing aids in, is a constant buzzing. It's still constant, even though I have them in. But it's not like drowning everything out. If I don't have my hearing aids in, it's like basically all I could hear is the buzzing, and it's drowning everything out. And
it's so weird that you got that instead of me.
Yeah, it is
which
weird.
Makes no sense. Because I mean, I have low level tinnitus. Like and one of the things that I love about the movie is how the sound, the mixing. Like, whoever did that should win some type of award.
Well, he just won the Oscar for Best Sound.
There you go.
Yeah.
That tinnitus sound, I do have that. And it comes but it comes and goes. Sometimes I'll just out of nowhere get like the super high pitch. But it's weird. I've been around drums and Marshall stacks my entire life, and, you know, giant subwoofers my entire life, and you're the one who ended up with that. It's like so weird. So obviously, like, did the doctor tell you there was an event that?
No.
So break that down.
Here's what happened. For maybe all of high school, it was like how you're describing. Mm-hmm. It would come in and be high pitched and then go away. Yeah. And then one day the high pitched tinnitus kind of came in, and then it never went away. It was for every second of every day. I was just hearing this constant tinnitus,
Jesus
this constant ring, and it was driving me insane. And I went to a couple of doctors, who I won't say any of the doctors' names, but some hearing and tinnitus people who I was not a fan of, who kept telling me that eventually it will go away and that eventually I'll just stop noticing it. And that never happened.
Yeah.
And it never even occurred to me that maybe I had hearing loss. Mm. I had trouble understanding people because the ringing was so loud. And I thought the reason why I had trouble understanding people when they spoke to me was just because, like, the ringing's drowning everything out. And then I went to a center that it wasn't like an ENT. It was specifically for tinnitus. And the first thing they did was kind of give me a hearing test. And that's when they said, you're not so much like, it's not hearing loss in the typical way. It's your ears can't hear certain frequencies. There are certain like higher pitch frequencies that specifically for like when someone's speaking, because naturally human beings speak in kind of like a higher pitch.
Than
what do you mean?
A higher pitch than what?
Just like higher on like the spectrum of, like, if you consider like high to low frequencies, human beings typically speak in the higher frequencies.
Okay.
And those specifically were the frequencies that I either wasn't hearing at all or I was partially hearing. And they were like, that's a lot of the reason why you can't understand when people are speaking with you. And that's also where the tinnitus comes from. Because basically that ringing in your ear is your ears trying to make up for the sounds that it can't hear. So when you just play a show and, like, say you don't wear your ear protection,
Oh,
Your
like 99.9%
you
of shows.
get ringing in your ear afterwards because all the loud noises kind of drum out those high frequencies, and you're unable to hear them for at least the time being.
Right.
So you get the ringing in your ear. That's your ears making up for the frequencies.
Dude,
you
I'm
can't
like
hear.
fucking have a physical reaction to this conversation. Like this is like not making me comfortable at all.
With yeah,
yeah, dude. I mean, this movie was fucking traumatic. Like, you're the one who actually has hearing loss, so I shouldn't be fucking complaining.
Well,
but
it's something that
it's like, damn, dude. Like, that's bad. It's fucking bad.
So there are a lot of things in this movie I specifically relate to. Mm-hmm. The thing with like, because I noticed it more now that like now it's occurred to me just like, oh, other people can hear better than I can.
Well, it's not something you think about.
It's not something. It's not something I thought about. It never occurred to me that I had
I'm saying
loss.
even now that you like. I mean, I guess there's a certain point a day where you put on your hearing aids for the first time during the day.
Yeah,
and like at that moment. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just like brushing your teeth now. You don't even think about it.
No, well, I don't notice them in anymore. Like I don't really notice I have them until I take them out, and I kind of take them out at night, and I kind of hear what the world sounds like through just my raw ears, and it's noticeably different. Yeah,
I mean, I guess is it like kind of having glasses and taking them on and off? Because I remember when I first got glasses,
it's not like that in a way.
It's obviously not the same thing, but
because in a way it's louder with my hearing aids out because I take them out and then the ringing is just overpowering everything.
Oh, damn.
And here's the thing: even when I have them in, the buzzing is still there, but the buzzing is at a point where I can forget about it. If they're not in, I can't forget about it. It's all I'm thinking about.
What the fuck caused that?
So the doctor says it could be genetic. It could be from exposure. I was saying like, well, I played music all throughout high school, and I was kind of like allowed around drums and amplifiers. Do you think that had to do with it?
No, you did. I'm not trying to take away your experience, but let's be honest. Like, that was a fraction of the amount of time that I spent around music.
Right, exactly.
So like how...
But they also said like with hearing and hearing loss, it's impossible to track it to one thing. It's impossible to track it to one thing. Or like
the experience might not...
and it could have been a factor of things.
Yeah. But even like you and I could have the same experience, and it could affect you differently than...
Yeah, I guess.
My point is, I don't know that I don't know the science behind it. That might not be a correlation at all.
There was another, I don't know how true this is, but there was like some study recently that also people who have ADD, that there was a correlation between that and hearing loss. And I also have ADD. So maybe that had something to do with it also. Maybe that was a factor.
All right, I'm not trying to get crazy here. Is ADD real?
Yes, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I heard that like ADD in the 90s. I'm not trying to be like, I heard something on the internet.
I don't know.
But like, is it a real thing? Like children, or is it the pharmaceutical industry creating a lane for themselves?
I don't know.
The answer is probably both.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know how much like big pharma had to play in ADD. All I know is when I was a kid, I could not concentrate on one thing for more than like 5 seconds. And then I started...
That is not true. You used to build giant...
No, that's 100% true.
Dude,
when
are you out of your mind?
When I was sitting in class, I was not able to concentrate
you just said
on one thing.
What did you just say, though, when you're sitting in class?
Yeah.
Because you're a kid. You don't want to be sitting in class. When you were like writing your own movies when you were fucking 10 and building Legos, my point is, the conspiracy would be that they're fucking planting the seeds in the parents that, oh, there's something wrong with your child. Don't fucking smirk. I'm just
remember
saying.
having this exact conversation when I was little with Mom. I said that I think I used the words like, I feel like someone keeps changing the channel in my head.
Whoa.
Yes. Because you know how you try to you try to concentrate on
some deep shit.
You try to concentrate on one thing and then quickly your brain flips to another thing. And you can't keep concentrating on the same thing for too long. And it felt like there was a remote control and they kept changing the channel. That's how like I kind of thought of it when I was a kid.
It's also true though that you had very, very intense interests in things outside of school. That's also true.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like,
I don't know how. I mean, I don't know. I didn't want this to be a conversation on ADD because I don't really know much about it.
Well, also, you haven't been medicated for it. Like, you were medicated for it for like maybe a couple of years.
I was medicated for it. I think I stopped in like 9th grade, like first year of high school. Yeah, was when I stopped. But anyway,
there might be a correlation between that and hearing loss.
Between that and hearing loss is what they're saying.
It's crazy that they can't give you an answer.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy.
It is crazy. But I literally felt like I was going crazy with the tinnitus. It was nonstop all the time. And then one of the scenes in The Sound of Metal that like I really got emotional at is when he finally gets his cochlear implants he's able to hear and like nothing sounds the same.
And it sucks. Yeah.
And it's kind of that tinny.
Dude, that scene, shout out to Riz Ahmed for acting in that scene. Because
his facial fucking expression when he first can hear it and it's like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, but it's even better than that because like the way that it's played is like you're waiting for that payoff where he's going to be like, everything's back to normal, and then it's not.
Yeah.
And like it just lingers on his face and you see like the joy, like you see the hope kind of dwindling.
That is that's how I felt exactly when I got my hearing aids. When I first got my hearing aids, they don't sound like this. It doesn't sound like this anymore because I kind of got used to it. But that tinny, that static sound that you hear in the movie, that's exactly how I sounded.
That bad?
Similar.
Damn.
And I was like, everything sounds like static. I was explaining to the hearing aids woman, and she was explaining like, that will go away. You're hearing sounds that your brain is not used to hearing, and that's why it sounds weird.
So is it really going away, or are you getting used to it?
I don't know if I don't know if it went away or if I went used to it, and now that's just how I think it normally sound normally is. But like, I do not hear that tinny anymore. Okay. Like things used to, when I first got them, maybe like after a month and a half, it got totally back to normal. But there was a while where like things sounded really staticky and really tinny because those higher frequencies, my brain was not used to hearing. And suddenly I could hear all these sounds, differently. I remember it did get like improved so much, and now it's like I prefer wearing my hearing aids so much better than having them out. But when I first got them, I almost didn't like wearing them because it was like a trade-off. I mean, the tinnitus was so bad, but also the tinniness was like so annoying.
Fuck, man. I didn't know it was that fucked up.
But then after a while, like the tinny and the static, it kind of goes away. And I remember like after that, it was great. For maybe like the first half a year after I got my hearing aids, one of my favorite things to do was to like listen to a song that I've heard 100 times before that now just sounded so much better. of like Sublime's What I Got. I remember like that's my favorite song, and there was just
that's your all-time favorite
that's
song.
my all-time favorite song. And I remember when I heard it for the first time with my hearing aids in, with so much more information to the song that I was not getting before. That became one of my favorite things, was to like listen to music with my hearing aids on.
If you put earpods in, what do you hear?
I don't really.
Because is it bypassing the hearing aids if it's going right there, or are the hearing aids?
I
still
take my
affecting
hearing aids out.
If you listen on,
if I have the things that cover it.
Yeah.
Because everything's so close and so proximate.
What if it's the ones that go inside that you still take them out?
Yeah, well, I can't really wear the hearing aids and the ones that go in my ear.
Yeah.
And if they're the ones that cover your ears, like all you hear is static. If
you have them in.
Yeah, just because like everything's so close to them, like everything's bouncing out off each other. I remember when the tinnitus was like really bad, I would like stay up late and like I'd be like I'm living in a fucking nightmare because it was so fucking bad. Like there were nights where I couldn't sleep because it would just keep me up.
What was the worst, like college?
Probably right after college. High school was when like I started having it, but it would go away. Maybe halfway through college was when I started hearing it like every second of every day. And then right after college was when it really got bad.
Would drinking like have any effect on it?
Drinking made it worse. But really? I think kind of being hungover makes your ears kind of ring naturally, even if you don't have tinnitus.
Really?
That's at least what I've heard. But yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I don't really have it. The tinnitus never really plays like a. Tinnitus never really plays like a role in the movie.
Well, it does in the beginning.
It does in the beginning.
That sound is very recognizable. Yeah. That's the sound that I get. Thankfully, not much. But this movie kind of was a wake-up call. I mean, I already started the last, obviously, most live performances didn't happen last year. The one performance that we did, which was not in front of an audience, it was a virtual thing, but I did have in-ear monitors for.
Yeah.
But moving forward, I think, like... Yeah, man. I mean, this fucking movie scared the shit out of me personally, even though, I'll be honest, that band sucked. Riz Ahmed's band.
Oh, in the movie?
I mean, it was like clearly a made-up band. Like, it was like very... I know that's not the point. I'm just saying, like, Riz Ahmed, like, if you don't know how to play drums, maybe he fooled you. Like, if you do know how to play... Yeah.
Oh,
he's just
going
like
how
this.
To play drums. Okay.
No, I know. He's not playing drums, and then he's going like, here's this one dumb fill I know. Like I'm not picking on him. He did it. He was great.
He was great.
But the music part of it, thankfully, it was only in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then, like one other time, because I like it was interesting how the movie starts because it's just chaotic noise, but I was just like, is this going to be the whole movie? Because, like, this fucking band sucks.
You kind of get, like, that before he lost his hearing, he kind of lived a chaotic life. I mean...
Yeah, he's a touring musician.
But...
They had a nicer van than most. You know, it's a movie. Every show we play happens to be this sold-out rager, like, and we're just living in this giant-ass van. Like, that's not what it's like, man. But it's, again,
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it isn't.
My one pet peeve was just like some of the writing in the beginning was a little cringy for me. Like when they were just like, yeah, you know that Meatloaf song, like I could do anything for love. I said out loud, I said in my head, I was like, don't ask what's the thing that he won't do. I was like, that's the obvious question. Just don't Just anything but that. And then he goes like, what do you think the thing is that he wouldn't do for love? I'm like, fuck you, man. Did a 14-year-old write this? Not that a 14-year-old would have a fucking meatball or meatloaf for reference. Well, I was just like, that was just,
One of the
and the tattoos were awful.
Yeah,
I gotta say a couple bad things. All right.
No,
that's my role there.
One of the things. One of the things you were saying about idle hands and how like one of the themes of like he has to constantly keep moving, or else he feels like he's going to kind of fall back on past habits. I had said in my breakdown, like it does feel like he's running away from his past, and now he's in this community with their leader Joe is basically trying to teach him how to be still,
and very interesting how they played this out, especially at the end when he's basically got tears in his eyes and he's telling him he has to leave because his identity and the community's identity is wrapped up in accepting who you are and not running from it. And his surgery is him hiding from himself, essentially. And that's why it's so like powerful at the end when he takes his... Not jumping. I know I'm jumping ahead, but
we can jump ahead. Yeah, we can jump around.
This podcast is already off the fucking road now.
Yeah. We really. I mean, we usually like start at the beginning and then we talk about the whole thing going through. But we kind of.
It's not too common where you could really speak like super personally about a subject. So this is going to differentiate from other shows that are out there.
Well, I feel like a lot of what Joe's philosophy is with like stillness is kind of like those moments when you're not trying to escape your current situation is like when we're like the most at peace.
Correct.
Basically. Of
be here now.
But Ruben's kind of his entire goal throughout the movie is to escape his current situation. He cannot accept the fact that his hearing is gone, it's not coming back. And they're pretty honest with him from the beginning. Absolutely. Of like, you are not getting your hearing back. Yeah. And when they talk about the cochlear implants, they're like, they can help. They will not bring your hearing back. And it's like he refuses to accept that.
By the way, you can't charge $40,000 for those pieces of shit.
Yeah, by the way, those are covered by all insurance. That's another thing that annoyed me about the film is when they said the cochlear implants, they're expensive. They're $40,000-$80,000 and they're not covered by insurance.
I mean, that gives a little tension. It's like you got to sell the van. You got to,
in real life,
it's a plot point.
In real life, every insurance covers cochlear implants. Okay. It's like it might be like illegal not to.
Yeah.
It's like a pretty like standard thing of just like, if you have health insurance and you go.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past the U.S. government.
That's like, true. I wouldn't put it past.
Water is not covered.
I that like pointed out because like I already knew of just like that's covered. By like pretty much all major insurances. I don't understand. They could have just had it like he doesn't have insurance, and like that would have solved that right there. You know. Because it's not. It's weird that it's not unbelievable that he doesn't have insurance. He's that
is a weird kind of mistake, because clearly they were so careful with all the. No, I don't know. I'm not an ASL speaker, but I'm assuming what they're doing is real language.
Well, another thing was
the actors.
So
like were those
for the most part, every actor who plays a deaf character was deaf.
Okay, that's what I figured. Also, that's kind of the way society rolls now.
Yes.
Because if you had a bunch of people not deaf in there, there would be a whole bunch of people like raising hell about that.
Except for the character Joe, who's kind of the leader.
I love that guy.
He's that actor, Paul Reese. He's not deaf, but both of his parents are deaf, and he grew up and he grew up in a deaf commune, and is fluent in sign language.
Shout out to that guy. He rocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I fucking was like, this is my guy. You
Yeah.
know? Like it's a good movie, man. It's a good movie.
I like that how he kind of says like the stillness of, and he makes that kind of motion. I'm probably not doing it right in sign language. He makes that moment of like, I'm wondering, when you sit in the room, have you had moments of stillness, of just like asking him if he's had moments of peace or not. You know, if you have the philosophy of like your hands can't be idle when you're an addict, you have to keep moving. But it's also like, that's also not really a way to live your life. You have to be able to sit and be in your present moment. And I think that's really what Ruben doesn't understand.
I think, like, you know, from my experience, like, I'm next week is going to be a year since I've had a drink.
Very nice.
You know,
congratulations.
Well, I don't know if it's a congratulations, because like I always say, I don't know how long it'll be. Like, but the point is, there's like steps you take, you know, for instance, like when I first stopped drinking, I was drinking non-alcoholic beer every day. Yeah. And I was eating ice cream every day. So it's like, that's not sustainable. Right. You know, it's like you eventually, then I turned that into walking. Then I turned that into running on the treadmill. I remember when you were walking like a couple miles every day. Yeah. I mean, like, that's basically what I mean. It's like, you can't go from, you have to, you don't just take something out of your life. You have to replace it. And then at first that might be replaced by something that's not sustainable. And then you find new ways of replacing the energy. But, you know, I definitely can relate from that standpoint. Like, thank God I was never a heroin user, but it's interesting. The addiction angle was interesting. Like sometimes it's overplayed, but it was interesting here because
I'm glad that he never relapses in the movie,
because it wouldn't do that much for the story.
Like, it wouldn't, and it's not about that.
It's not about that. It's not about that. But it's an interesting thing to raise the stakes. Yeah, because you can't just hide by being on tour your whole life. You can't just hide by getting fucked up your whole life. Yeah. Now you have to make a decision.
And I like at the end when he goes in, he visits Lou, who's now living in France with her father. Yeah. And Lou has kind of achieved that stillness.
She's kind of reinvented herself by going back. Yeah, in a way, symbolized by that haircut, I suppose.
I guess, but you see that, like, she used to kind of itch her arms and stuff.
Well, she cut her. She looked like a cutter.
Yeah. But of like a way to I don't know. I guess to like keep the some sort of like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But you see that, like, when he brings up like, oh, we got to go back on the tour, got to work on the album again, it's like that lifestyle is no longer appealing to her.
Well, I don't think it's appealing to either of them. They're just kind of both like, like, we got to work on the album. Like, dude, for some real talk, like, I know, like, I grew up with a lot of musicians. I know people that, like, you know, they still talk about, like, you know, we're doing this, we're doing that. You're not really, though. You know what I mean? Right. Like, this has become... I was having a conversation with the landlord of my studio earlier this afternoon, and he's a little more blunt than I am. But, you know, a lot of these people that still get together once in a while and practice, and, you know, it's like... It's a social thing, man. Yeah. It's, you know, it's just guys getting together, right? You know... It's part of your, it's, you know, what's the difference between that and, like, you know, playing racquetball with, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's not about the fucking, so I don't know. I found that conversation to be, just a conversation that I'm, like, super used to hearing, like, or overhearing. I mean, the moment has passed them by, but they're still kind of like...
Well, I kind of read it as just like Lou was able to do what Ruben couldn't. Ruben is still looking for that life of just like constantly in movement, constantly pushing forward, escaping your past. Nomadland. He's still looking for that, because for him, that's still the answer of recovery. And she is kind of past that. That's no longer appealing to her. She's, achieved stillness, as Joe would say.
And I like this. I feel like this is a new thing that used to never happen. Like, I always feel like back in the day, they always used to wrap movies up in a bow.
Yes.
That doesn't really happen too much ananymore. A lot of movies just kind of end now.
Yeah.
And if you notice, this doesn't really get wrapped up. Like, it's just like, I like that they the character who plays Lou's father was great.
Yeah.
And he kind of gives you a little insight as to why maybe she was a cutter, and maybe she was running from stuff because she had a turbulent childhood. And, they don't get into specifics, but like, oh, the mother took her away from me and this and that. So you could tell that there's some reconnecting there. And then he just kind of takes off his hearing aids, or his, whatever you call
his implants.
His implants. Are they implants though? Because they're movable and they're clearly...
The way cochlear implants work is that there are implants into your brain, or like on the inside of your ear, and then there are external ones that you put outside here. So
both.
They're both. So the external ones pick up sounds.
Jesus Christ.
And then the ones that are inside are the ones that play it in your brain.
Oh God, I swear to Christ, man. I mean, sometimes you have a wake up call and, not to get too personal, but like our grandfather's in the hospital right now. Yeah. Like there's just a ton of shit going on. Like, even when he had with his fucking scar on his head, it reminded me of my buddy Kevin, who got hit by a car, and he has a fucking giant scar, just like Riz Ahmed did, even worse in his skull, because he got hit fucking crossing the street. Sometimes you just like get these little moments where you go, man, fuck, dude. Yeah. So much is like taken for granted about basic shit. Like if you wake up and your fucking body functions, you're doing better than a lot of people.
There is a lot of wake up calls about how fragile our kind of bodies are. When I first got, my hearing aids, when they first kind of told me I had hearing loss, I was so worried that it was going to get worse. I was like, had so much anxiety. It hasn't gotten worse. It's pretty much at the same level as it was 3 years ago.
Do they tell you things you could do to actively not make it worse? I mean, obviously, avoid loud noises comes to mind, but
it's avoid loud noises. It's protection. There's nothing you can do to get hearing back, with the exception of wearing hearing aids. Like, there's naturally, the hearing you lost is gone. And there's no way to kind of bring it back.
Yeah, and I still because I'm even trying to think genetically, like who in our family line had hearing loss.
I don't know.
They can't point to,
They said with hearing loss, there's so many factors that like it's impossible to say it's one thing. It's impossible to say it's genetics, or it's impossible to say it's because I've been around loud music for a lot of my life. You know. I don't know. Honestly, it's not even like something I think about a lot.
Right.
My hearing aids, I forget that I'm wearing them most of the time. It's not something I often bring up in conversation.
You never do.
Yeah, it's just because like I don't consider it like a big factor of my life, and that's the kind of thing of just like, I don't consider myself anywhere near the problems that Ruben has.
Clearly, it's not that. It's not as bad, but I mean, it's still. I'll be honest, I don't think about it. Like I forget that I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Like sometimes if I even notice, I never notice here, but if I catch you from behind and I see them behind your ears, I'll go, oh yeah, fuck. Like I forgot,
Yeah.
Because, forever, for so long. I mean, it's only been, 3 years, you said?
Yeah, it's been 3 years I've had them.
Yeah.
The new job that I'm working on, I've been at for like a month and a half, and like one of my coworkers just noticed that I had them.
Well, that's what I mean. You wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
Because you're not looking for it.
Well, no, exactly. You're not looking for them. And also, like, you know, the hearing aid, the back of it is like, first of all, they're designed to kind of not be noticeable.
Well, and they match your skin tone.
And they match my hair. Know, they're brown like my hair. Yeah. And they're in a spot where people don't normally look. And like, the part that actually goes into my ear, you know, is clear plastic. They're designed specifically so that people don't notice them.
Yeah, no, I know. I've never even, to be honest, now I can see it because I'm looking directly for it, but I never even noticed that the first part.
Yeah.
Or the front
I notice when other people have hearing aids, and I feel like because I have them and I know like where they are and what they look like, I notice them on other people more. More people wear them than you would think, you know.
Sure.
Younger people too. That was like kind of one of the problems of just like, because they kind of had that conversation of just like, there's a good possibility your hearing will get worse as you get older.
They said that you're talking about you or
for me.
Yeah.
So they were like,
well, I mean, to a degree, naturally, right?
To a degree, naturally. So they're like, look, eventually you will have to get them. So you might as well just get them now. And I was also like, I was with the tinnitus, like I was literally in pain, you know? No,
because you're in a level of discomfort.
But
of course.
I would say it's pain. It's
of course,
it's on par with physical pain.
Well, yeah, because it's affecting your fucking your mind, which is then gonna have the mind-body connection is very real.
I will talk about like technically with this film because there are a lot of cool stuff. Like you were saying, of the sound design is great.
For sure.
They just won an Oscar for best sound. So this year at the Oscars is the first year that it's just best sound, because before there was the award for best sound design and best sound mixing. It was two separate awards.
Yes.
And this is the first year that it's just one. There are a lot of people I know who kind of like had issue with that, who were like saying like, well, sound design and sound mixing are two very different things.
Here's my immediate reaction is like, how can you judge, like certain things are mixed for certain reasons. Right. So if some movie is just mixed here, like, oh, you could hear everything equally, great. But maybe that's not the point. Like maybe like in this movie, everything's not mixed equally. Well, like you're hearing muddled things. You're hearing static. You know, one of the most powerful parts, and I guess why they made it the closing thing, when he takes it off, and then the sound. Yeah, there's no sound.
Yeah,
and then the credits hit with no sound. I thought they were gonna leave no sound throughout the credits.
Yeah,
they bring in a little music, but that was a cool way to end it.
It's very jarring, even that you would hear literally nothing in a movie.
Yeah,
very jarring. A lot of that muffling sound when
excruciating
when Riz Ahmed first gets it
in the pharmacy and all that.
I was watching of how they recorded that sound. Is they used underwater mics and they put the microphone in Riz Ahmed's mouth.
Okay, I would not. I don't know. There's way easier ways to do that.
Well, they said what they wanted to achieve was to make it sound like you're inside his head.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And so what they did was, so they had it like literally inside his head.
Yeah, no, that's fucking brilliant. And I would have thought it was just filters. Like
no. But if you like listen carefully, they say like, even the movements of his body are louder than other people speaking, because the microphone is like literally inside of him. And it was like, what I wanted to kind of do was I wanted to like make it seem like you're inside of his skull.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that's
Riz Ahmed also, he wore like auditory blockers the entire shooting.
okay.
So
I was curious about that because
Yeah.
I was like, how's he gonna act to this? Like
he actually couldn't hear.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, there were a couple of points where I was just like, this seems like he's faking it, but I guess he wasn't.
No, he said
I don't know.
It was like little things that emit a white noise that he put into his ears, so that like literally everything was muffled. Yeah.
Shout out to my boy Heems.
Do you want to talk about that at all? Since Heems was in a group with Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to name drop. I'm just like trying to. I don't know. I hope he's doing well. My friend Heems, who's a rapper I worked with very closely for a few years there.
What is your opinion on Riz Ahmed's rap career?
Sweatshop Boys is ill.
I love it. I've heard other people who think it's whack, who think Riz Ahmed's like solo stuff is whack.
I haven't paid too close attention to his solo stuff.
Sweatshop Boys is amazing.
Yeah.
That album he did with Heems.
Well, he's done multiple. There was one, the full length Cashmere, that was like 2017.
Right.
And I worked closely with Heems from 15 to like 15 to the beginning of 18.
Yeah.
Mostly 15 and 16, and then some stuff in 17 and like one thing in 18. But the point was like I was around when I was like working with him as his like New York guy, and then when he would go to London, he worked with The Last Skeptic, and then he worked with Verdinho, who's the producer of Sweatshop Boys, and Riz Ahmed, and like we did a lot of stuff during that time while he was making that album. I remember when we went up to Northampton, Massachusetts, and opened for Jizza. I was DJing for him, like just playing a laptop while he rapped. But like he was showing me some of the mixes for the Riz Ahmed thing, and they were actually they actually like put in to open for MIA on like a tour that she was gonna do. I don't know if it ever happened, but I never I never delved into like his solo stuff. I know that
his solo stuff it's a different vibe than the Sweatshop Boys.
Yeah. I've heard like a track or two.
It's less political than Sweatshop Boys. It's more British, if that makes sense.
Well, I know something.
I don't know how to describe it, but like British rappers, they rap in a certain way.
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, there's grime artists, there's drill artists.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're naturally going to have like a certain lingo. It's like saying someone from Brooklyn or someone from Atlanta. Like, is that what you mean?
It's not so much, but I mean, I feel like British rappers, they rap faster. I mean, it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but you can tell it's like a lot more British, and his kind of tonally and like the vibe of his, at least his Inglistan album is very different than Sweatshop Boys.
Yeah, that was before.
Yeah,
before
Sweatshop Boys, I like better.
Inglistan was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I knew Riz Ahmed because you had worked with Heems before he was really in like a lot of famous stuff.
Yeah, it was right before he basically started blowing up around that time, and because he got that HBO show,
The Night Of, which was fantastic.
Right.
That was kind of the. Before that, he did a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal called Nightcrawler, which he's fantastic in. And then The Night Of, I mean, when I was in film school, I was actually on the set of The Night Of. It was like, it was one of
that must have been your last year, right?
It was my last year. It was like
so that was 2016.
The gaffer of The Night Of was like friends with one of the teachers, and it was like maybe 6 of us got to go and hang out on the set for a bit. And then like it didn't come out for like a while after.
Yeah, naturally.
It was back because the night of, John Turturro's character was originally supposed to be played by James Gandolfini.
That's so weird. I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah. Originally James Gandolfini
that was around for years then.
Yeah.
Because he was...
no. He I forget who is the showrunner of the night of, but
HBO.
Yeah. They were trying to get that off the ground for a while.
Yeah.
Originally, James Gandolfini was going to play John Turturro's role. And then John Turturro has a line in the night of where he's kind of threatening someone, and he was just like, I have a friend from Jersey who can come visit you. And it was supposed to be like a hint towards like Tony Soprano, because that role was supposed to be played by Gandolfini.
That's kind of lame. I'm glad that didn't happen. Like, why would they do that? Like, it's not like... They're trying to make a cross reference to The Sopranos.
It was just like he says it in the show.
But they were gonna have James Gandolfini.
No. They weren't gonna have James Gandolfini. He says it.
As like
in
a tribute?
The show as like a tribute to James Gandolfini.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. Then the night of was great. I like this kind of idea of the deaf community. They don't really see it as being disabled. Well,
it's about it's a choice, right? Because if you're gonna say, hey, there is no option, this is what it is. Yeah. Then it's about making a fucking powerful choice. Yeah. And embracing it. Yeah. And fucking flipping the script and going, let's do this shit. But as opposed to fucking jumping off a building and killing yourself.
But I think a lot of the like messaging of this film is that it was like, actually, if you take away sound and you start thinking of more creative ways to express yourself rather than being reliant on just speech alone, then you can actually be more expressive than the rest of the people who are just reliant on words. And Riz Ahmed said this in interviews. He was like, in the real life deaf community, there's a saying that hearing people are emotionally repressed because they hide behind their words.
Absolutely.
And it's like when you are not using set language, when you're using more it's sign and touch and to kind of get feelings across, you're able to express your emotions better that way.
That makes a lot of sense, man. It really does.
And one of the things I love is that like when he is in the deaf community, he finds a way to play music still. He finds a way to still
in the school, you mean?
Do the drums, and you hear them feeling the piano.
That teacher is fine as hell
when they're playing. She was Miss Deaf America, that actress.
She's fucking hot.
She was.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to try to do like a romance of her and Riz Ahmed.
I'm glad they didn't, man.
And I'm glad that they didn't.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. Like there was a few though.
Yes,
I only have
didn't.
A couple of little there was a couple things that I would have just take the fucking Meatloaf line out and I would have been happy. But
I like when they're feeling the kind of piano. I like this idea of just like the feel of music is just as beautiful as like the sound of music. And there's the two contrasting scenes of one where he's with the deaf school and they're all feeling the piano, and it's like the feel of the music, you get the same beauty and the same sensation. And then there's the scene where he's in France and he has his cochlear implants in and he's listening to his girlfriend sing and his girlfriend's father play the piano, and like you hear like this beautiful song in our normal hearing, and then it fades into what he's hearing. and it is kind of the kind of like monkey's paw of like, be careful what you wish for.
What do you? I've never heard that expression before.
Monkey's paw?
No.
Okay. It's from like, I think like an old Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay.
It's basically like it's a monkey's paw. You make a wish on it, and it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for. It's like every wish comes with a curse. And Riz Ahmed wanted to be able to hear so bad, but he got away where the functionality of hearing, he's got the functionality of hearing back, but all the beauty of sound is still gone.
Exactly. You know? And that's what they show. Like, they show that in that moment where he's first excited. You see it on his face when he first puts it on, and then the disappointment. But also, I like how they show just how he had a community, and he was like laughing. He was jovial in the community. Yeah. And then, you know, trying to force the issue of hearing, and it's like the disconnection, and how they show like this, he's in the city and he's by himself. Yeah. It was very like kind of smart how they did that. I also like how they showed who's the community leader, Joe, you said? Joe. Yeah. I like how they play him too, because when he's emotional and he's telling him he has to leave because they're about like, you know, not running from, you know, who you are and embracing it. I also got the sense that they didn't just make his character like this out and out saint. Like I almost got a tinge of like, hey, are you hanging on too hard to this identity right now? Like, should you be a little more open-minded? And maybe like, if that's what you want to do, like, you know, go for it sort of deal. Right. Like, I also like the trust factor where he's like, you know, look, he's a brittle older man. Riz Ahmed could fuck him up. Right. Right. But he goes like, give me your keys. You know, there's like a trust there. Like he's asking, he's like, you know, do you think you could do this? It's like when you're trying to, you know, work with somebody or like be in a relationship and you're like, so are you going to do this or not? You're putting yourself on the line. Like he was being a little vulnerable there. Right. Because he didn't really, Riz Ahmed could have just walked out, you know, or whatever his name is, Ruben. Like he could leave. Like I like that guy's character was like pretty well written, well acted. Like Joe was a great character. A lot of this movie, it's very light on plot. It's that's pretty, what I'm saying. Like it's pretty light on plot, and it is more about the characters. It's more about these conversations that these characters have with each other, or more these like emotions that these characters share with each other, which is more interesting. Than like putting together some like A, B, C, and out because in an hour and a half or 2 hours. Think about the actual plot of this movie. Not a whole lot happens. No, really. When you read the description of them, I remember. Okay, so all I know going in, you got a guy who's like a drummer, who's a metal drummer, and he loses his hearing. So you go, okay. Yeah, you and almost then, like how do you fill up 2 hours with that? Exactly, and then you go runtime 2 hours, and I'm going, yeah, okay, but it works, and that's what I think is cool about, you know, how things are going now. Nomadland. I mean, who was I talking to about? Oh, the other night I was with my friend John in the studio, and I think he said it, and he was just like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Oh, did you catch Nomadland?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it was fucking boring." I go, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, nothing happens," and I go, "Yeah, I know." That's what. Like I just like I'd rather see something play out than fucking be spoon fed. Like to me, and of course not nothing happens, but you know what I mean. Yeah, well, to me, like Sound of Metal is like a better mix of those two. Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, in Nomadland, like literally nothing happens. Well, no, yeah, but like to your point, where you were saying when we did the episode, it's like halfway a doc.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And that's what's interesting too. They're getting rid of a lot of plot in a lot of films, and they're going so hard on the realism.
Yeah.
Where, you know, and that's also because it's like about representation and stuff. Like,
I mean,
so they're not going to show
how this is semi a doc too, where it's like you're taking real life deaf people and showing them realistically how they live.
And in Nomadland, there were a lot of people who were actually campers, or you know, whatever they're referred to as, like
van dwellers.
Yeah, which, by the way, I watched Camper Force. I mean, yeah, Camper Force was good. It wasn't as like crazy as I was expecting. It was like that couple was like pretty sane. I mean, clearly that was their choice. Like they're you know, I feel terrible they lost all their money. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Break this down before we wrap up here.
Sure.
I think I know the answer, but like, all right, so a movie that's just sold to Amazon, right? It could have been sold to Hulu, it could have been sold to Netflix, it could have gone to a wide release, but it's sold to Amazon. Okay. Amazon Studios, is that a soup to nuts Amazon production? Written by Amazon?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because
some of them.
What's Amazon Studios and what's just we sold to Amazon?
So this film specifically was produced, it appeared in film festivals, and then Amazon bought it. But Amazon does produce their own things that are specifically for you know, their Amazon Prime.
So why did this get the treatment of like Amazon Studios? Because not everything you see on Amazon gets that treatment, right?
Well, because a lot of the things you see on Amazon
came out before Amazon existed
somewhere else, and then Amazon may have the rights to distribute that movie on their platform, but they don't own the movie outright.
Oh.
The Sound of Metal, it wasn't produced by Amazon, but Amazon owns it outright.
So who produced it though? I'm
not sure exactly.
Who paid for it, right? Because
I'm not sure exactly. Some production company put up the money,
and they just assume they're gonna sell it.
Some production companies. I mean, a movie like this you can make for a pretty small amount of money.
Yeah.
Some production companies, they do it for film festivals because they know like Disney or Amazon or, you know, Warner Brothers, one of the major studios, are going to these film festivals.
What do you have to do to get into a Sundance or something like that? Is it just money? Or do you need a Riz Ahmed? Or do you need...
You probably need a Riz Ahmed. It's basically you send your money in to be selected. You have to be selected.
Correct. So you can't buy a spot at Sundance, for instance.
I don't think you can. Right. I'm sure there are shady ways around it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. That's at least not how it's supposed to work.
I have a friend who got a doc in and won last year.
Oh, Sundance?
Tyler,
nice.
who did like most of the Gamblers videos.
Hell yeah.
It was like best short.
Oh, nice.
You know, it wasn't like best doc.
Best short documentary.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Touch of the Master's Hand.
Yeah, you
Tyler
send you send your film in to the whoever does the selections, and they decide what films get in. If it's a feature length, you would probably need like a Riz Ahmed or some smaller actor if you're doing it like that.
Is there a risk of like, let's say their budget was like 15 million, which is probably small. Like what do you think this budget was? 25 million?
That sounds right.
So is there a scenario where you make a movie for 25 million and then don't sell it?
Yeah. 100%.
So what happens? That production company is just $25 million cheap. Less profitable. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
What could have happened is maybe Amazon gave them some money for production. Amazon gave them some money from production,
but then
then like put it in film festivals to see how well it would do. And then bought it outright afterwards.
So in other words, it's like they always were on track to be with Amazon. Like Amazon is almost placing a bet on them.
Amazon could have not done well, and Amazon was like, we want to sell this somewhere else.
So Amazon would get their money back.
So Amazon would get their money back. I don't know if that's
It'd be hard
specifically
to sell, right?
What happens, but it could have been what happened.
Because why would Hulu be like, well, why am I buying it from you? I had a talk with a manager once, and they were just like, if I can't recommend you to another manager, because that manager is going to go, well, if they're so great, why didn't you sign them?
Right.
You know what I mean? So why would Hulu take Amazon? Like,
yeah, I don't know with specifics because like I don't know the story of how this got produced.
I'm just curious, like, because when I saw Amazon Studios,
Amazon Studios, they bought it after it was in Sundance, and that's why they put Amazon Studios on it. I don't believe this was produced exclusively for Amazon. Mm-hmm. There are the most like television shows that are on Amazon.
Yeah, Just Add Magic, which Eleanor is obsessed with.
Oh yeah,
that's an Amazon production.
Like The Boys is produced exclusively by Amazon.
Right, right.
You know, other TV shows. Miss Maisel is produced by Amazon. Amazon does produce their own things, but they're also at film festivals buying things to show on their platform.
Right.
Which is what happened here. Yeah, but where they got like their initial funding, I mean, there's so many different,
production companies.
There's so many different production companies, and there's so many different like ways you can finance a movie that I'm not even sure.
Break some of those down.
I don't know if you're just able to like, you have friends in Hollywoods that are willing to bet money on you. Mm-hmm. If you have a standing production company who has a business model of we produce these movies and then we sell them to a major studios after they do well in film festivals, you can have it like that. Or you can have, we have a production company, we went to a major studio saying, give us your money, give us some money now without you don't have to sign us to distribution right now, but you can give us some money so that we can at least make the movie. We'll put it into film festivals, and then you see how it does, and then decide if you want to buy it, or decide if you want to cut us loose, and then we have the option to sell it to someone else.
But they would have to get their money back. Whoever made it originally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that really would work, but I know that like has happened before.
It's interesting. I mean, because it's not something you think about a lot. It's like, how does something actually come out?
Yeah. I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, it's kind of difficult to make money in movies. It's a little bit difficult. They cost so much to make, and everything's a gamble.
Yeah.
They didn't know if this movie is going to be a success, and it at least cost like $25 million. So
that's interesting. They would even consider a movie like this a gamble, even though they have a big star in it.
Yeah, I mean, Riz Ahmed isn't.
He's not a giant star.
He's not a giant star.
No,
there are plenty of movies.
He might not even be a star. I mean,
there are plenty of movies
actor
with bigger actors in it who have that has flopped.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything is a gamble with movies.
That's true.
That's why, all these studios, they'll do their small independent stuff. Like Disney will have Fox Searchlight that does all their small independent stuff. In the end, the money that Disney is making off of Avengers is what
covers every
they're putting into Fox Searchlight and the Nomad movies, which aren't making that much money.
Yeah. I guess there's your answer as far as why the superhero movies are always coming out.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for the superhero movies, they wouldn't have money to finance the independent movies. Right. They wouldn't have money to finance
They're not really independent, but the small one.
The smaller ones.
Yeah.
Fox Searchlight is like an independent studio.
Yeah,
it's
Fox
not.
is in the name.
It's
and
it's
Searchlight.
not.
Cool. All right.
The Sound of Metal. Darious Marder. I didn't even really talk about Darius Marder. Darius Marder.
Spend a couple minutes there.
So Darius Marder, it's not his directorial debut. It's his first feature film. He directed a short film a couple of years ago, but he also wrote The Place Behind the Pines, which one of the most underrated movies of all time. Darius Marder wrote Place Behind the Pines, which was directed by Derrickson France, and then Derrickson France co-wrote The Sound of Metal with Darius Marder.
When did The Place Behind the Pines come out?
2012,
and
it's starring Ryan Reynolds, and it's one of like the most underrated, like under the radar great movies of really like. It's a movie where like
I might check it out, so don't spoil it.
Okay, I'll try not to spoil it, but in my breakdown I talked about how like a lot of the character flaws that Ruben has, Ryan Gosling's character in The Place Behind
Ryan Reynolds or Ryan Gosling?
Ryan Gosling. I might have said Ryan Reynolds before. Ryan Gosling. A lot of those two protagonists, they have a lot of the same character flaws of this kind of, they refuse to accept their current situation. And they're kind of self-destructive in, they are so committed to escaping their current situation that they make things worse for themselves.
Right.
And I was really interested. I mean, I was already interested in watching The Sound of Metal, but after I found out that Darius Marder had written The Place Behind the Pines, I really wanted to watch it because that movie is fantastic. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say about Darius Marder. Just because,
is it like a horror movie?
No, it's like a crime drama.
Okay.
Because I don't know, our podcast is supposed to be, I try to like bring up who created it and like kind of why,
Yeah, we didn't really spend
if they
a lot
have
of time.
similar themes, which we didn't really talk about this time, but that's
all right.
fine.
This is more of a personal one.
Yeah. All right. The Sound of Metal, directed by Darius Marder.
Great movie.
Starring Riz Ahmed, great actor. If you like this podcast, you can check out our YouTube channel where I do the shorter breakdowns and also the video format of this podcast. Also check us out on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also on our YouTube, where we will be posting clips of our podcast, 10-minute clips of different topics of conversation that we started about.
Give or take. 10
Give
minutes.
or take.
Some are long, some are shorter.
Some are long
I'd
and
say
some are shorter.
5 to 15.
Yeah, 5 to 15 minutes. All right. This has been the Movies by McManus podcast. I'm your host, Greg. My brother, Mike.
Thank you for joining us again.
Yes,
we have eclipsed 1,000 downloads.
1,000 downloads? Oh.
Yeah. We're over 1,000 downloads.
Oh, hell
for
yeah.
the show.
Oh, nice.
All time, I mean.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you very much for downloading our podcast.
More than 1,000 times.
More than 1,000 times. I hope it was one person who did. Just
might be yo. Shout out to the people who leave crazy ass comments on our YouTube channel. By the way, I think did we talk about this last time?
You're the true heroes. We might have talked about it. How much weird just comments that there are
keep them
people
coming,
on the
man.
internet.
Someone hit me with a fucking essay about Jeffrey Epstein the other day on like one of the, I think we did talk about it. Anyway, on one of
the Charles Manson ones.
Yeah.
This thing, and I couldn't pinpoint like what they were trying to say.
Yo, also shout out to all the random people that DM us on Instagram like, yo, so like, you know, if you're ever looking for a guest, have we had one? Has there ever been any? Hey, introducing our first guest, some schmuck you've never heard of. Like, you think we're gonna fucking put your ass on the fucking thing? Like, we haven't had our friends on. We haven't had nobody on. We have... But people are so wacky. They just go, hey, you don't know who I am. I should be on your show. You're like, that's... Hey, listen, you got to be confident in life, you know?
Yeah,
you got to just be like, hey, this is what I do. You know, if you need help with SEO or whatever the fuck you try to pitch. I'm a salesman at heart. I understand. I ain't mad at you.
Sell Herbalife.
Yeah. Pyramid schemes are really interesting. We should do a pyramid scheme episode.
When I find the right topic, we'll find the right, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Pyramid schemes are interesting. We'll figure something out. All right. Movies by McManus. Host Greg.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Have a good night.